Hey, Danielle.
Hey, what's going on?
Look at this charming little colorful game here. Look at this.
Oh my god, it's so neon. Look at all those colors.
There are colors in it. Yeah, this is Splatoon, which if I'm understanding correctly, you have played before, but this is my footage from my first time ever getting to play the game.
Yes. Yes, I played it a little bit at E3 last year.
Okie doke. Yeah, and this was kind of our first chance to get a hands-on with the single-player content in Splatoon, which it was funny. I got the impression from talking to the Nintendo reps that they were like, this is very much a multiplayer-focused game. This single-player stuff is very secondary, which struck me as almost odd because I really like all of the stuff we played.
Me too. I was almost shocked. I was like, this feels like, and tell me if I'm crazy here, but playing this actually felt very much like playing Jet Grind Radio on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Like with the fast movement and the neon colors and sort of the, it almost felt like a little bit like a platformer hybrid, and I really dug that quite a bit.
Yeah, that was the aspect of it I think I was most impressed by too, is the motion, just moving around the world, doing stuff like that move right there, or like shooting paint on a wall like this and then sliding up it.
It feels so good, and it's fast paced, and it just sort of it feels very fun. It just feels really good to play. It
does. It's got that like Nintendo EAD quality to it where it is just so polished beyond belief, from the sound design, which all the splatters sound great and everything, to just the characters, the way they move, the way the music is, the real weight that there seems to be to the paint. Yeah, it's just from a controls perspective, because this again was my first time playing it, it's pretty crazy the way that motion controls are integrated.
Yeah, it actually works pretty well, and I am not someone who's used to using motion controls for anything at this point.
I think so too. I remember people, reports coming out of E3 last year saying that you had the option to turn that stuff off if you want to. But I don't know. For me, it felt good in this instance. The jury's still out for me on if I'm going to stick with it, but I want to give it a fair shake when it comes out and see how it feels.
Yeah, absolutely. So good job there, beating that level.
I did, and you will notice that the little guy I collected at the end was a little stuffed version of the actual dude you're looking to collect at the end of each stage here. So here is a sniper rifle also. This is the thing.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah, there's so many different kinds of weapons. I wasn't really expecting that out of this sort of goofy little platformer shooter thing. But yeah, there's tons of weapons.
I remember seeing early art of this sniper rifle, I think on their Tumblr or something, and thinking it looked really neat, but I never, I didn't really know what it was like to play. So you can kind of tap it to shoot quickly, but if you do this charge attack here, it not only does more damage, it shoots way further. And I just found this gun really fun to navigate with, because you can sort of lay down these long, narrow paths for you to surf down when you're in squid form. And then here's some more footage of a weapon. I think you got to try out the paint roller.
Yeah, I tried this a little bit. It's really fun. It's almost sort of like a melee weapon, in practice.
Right.
But otherwise, you're sort of laying down the paint as if, you're a little painter and you're just rolling your paint around.
Yeah.
And then here, I think it's just like using it as a melee weapon, basically.
And they all feel radically different. And to be clear, this mode we're showing here is actually, we jumped over from single player to the Amiibo challenge mode, where you replay existing levels, but with under certain criteria. So using a certain weapon that you would normally never use on that level or have at that point in the game. And it just, I don't know, yeah, it seems pretty neat. The Amiibo stuff is pretty, again, as it tends to be, I feel like. It's, maybe not vital, but they said there was a lot of exclusive costumes and stuff tied to the Amiibos. And also, I should say, we got to see the three Splatoon Amiibos in person, and they are the best looking Amiibos so far, I feel like.
They are so cute. Yes, and so detailed, too.
I was actually
little sneakers and little outfits. It's, oh my god.
There was a part of me that almost felt like they looked more expensive. Not that they are, but they just looked.
Sure.
They pointed out there's different transparent plastics used on the back of it, and then semi-opaque plastics for the gun and for some of the hair. It's just, they're so... Maybe Nintendo's just getting better at making Amiibos, I don't know.
Yeah, they're just making cooler toys. And this is our sort of the 1v1 mode here,
right? Yeah, so this is called Battle Dojo, and this is the 2-player local multiplayer. I'd call it split screen, except for you're not splitting a screen. One of us played on the TV with a Wii Remote Pro Controller, and then I played, this is footage from the gamepad, which unfortunately we don't have sound for, but that's all good.
I think I think this is me trying to shoot the balloons with this weapon here.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can kind of recharge your ink by swimming around in it.
Right, so you can see you on the other side there, swinging with that big, that thing right there. And yeah, I don't know, how did it feel playing with without the motion controls? Because you were using just a normal Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah, it feels great. I mean, I'm still sort of getting used to it, certainly, but it feels good. It feels like a shooter, but obviously, sort of a shooter with all these kind of platformer elements to it too, which is nice and sort of something that I did.
Like, one thing that I didn't really get until I actually played Splatoon with my own two hands was, it's easy to say, like, oh, it's Nintendo's take on a shooter, which the implication there is, like, it's a little cuter or prettier or friendlier, but it really is also just so fundamentally unlike every other shooter I've ever played.
Yes.
And not just aesthetically, like, the fact that the projectiles you're using all, for the most, there aren't really any that don't have a short range on them. So many modern shooters, I feel like there's hit-scan weapons that just hit across the map as soon as you pull the trigger. These are, like, slow-moving, it just feels like firing these balls of goo, and you really have to think about, like, arcing your shots, and
it's like that right there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a totally different way to think about a shooter. Same with the sort of color mechanic. Same with the swimming mechanic that they said is sort of this game's version of a sprint, but in a lot of ways it's so much more than that.
Yeah, that's sort of where that Jet Grind Radio comparison comes up for me, is like traversal is so important in this game that it's actually half the fun, really, is sort of getting around.
Totally. Oh, you snuck up on me. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that would be a deal breaker if it didn't feel great, but I love the feeling of, like, spraying an area that's ahead of you, swimming up to it, or spraying a wall, swimming up it, and then jumping to another area. It just I don't know. I feel like I immediately was able to kind of understand it and use it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very intuitive, and it's just very fun to kind of, like, get your hands dirty with it, almost. You know, it kind of feels like, oh yeah, you're getting your hands dirty because it's a game about paint and throwing paint around, but it kind of makes sense that way.
Totally. And it's also, like, really good looking. Like, I asked them, I was like, is there any shared tech from, like, the paint physics in Mario Sunshine? And they were like, I don't know, they said Nintendo shares resources all over the place, so who can say for sure, but it's much prettier. I'm so hyped for Splatoon now. I wouldn't have said that 2 weeks ago, but now I'm just, like, thrilled.
Yeah, I am pretty excited about it too. And there it was. Yep. You won by a hair.
Barely.
Fair enough.
But yeah, this game's out next month, and I'm definitely excited to see more of it and try out the actual multiplayer.
Me too.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.